Okay people, welcome back to another play day, and the theme this time around is small companies. Just the independents doing it for themselves, whether it be their own unique designs or some licensed products in some cases. And it's always a fun good time, especially seeing what some of these people can do with budgets that aren't Hasbro or Mattel or the big boys. Sometimes that means the prices are higher, or they have to go the crowdfund route because they don't own their own factories in China. There's not a board of directors. They're not pulling funds from other departments within a big global company. It's just a small team, or in some cases, just one guy with some help from friends making figures, making toys. Living the dream, getting out there with your own ideas and going, okay, I want to see this in plastic form. Can we do it? And a little hint, since I've already shot the rest of the video and messed with these figures, they're doing it. All right, let's start with the Brutal Realms Cronin, because this is the most prototype-like. This is just a resin output. It doesn't have the same strengths and tolerances as a factory piece with plastics and ABS and whatever else they use there. There's a fragility. There's a looseness, and that's normal in this stage. This is more to give us an idea of what to expect as far as looks and joint placement goes, not actual movement, posability, that kind of thing. And to be honest, the first pictures I saw of this, my initial reaction was, oh, that's a big, bulky figure. Will it be able to do anything? But now that I have this in hand, I think the answer is yes, because look at the import quality of the joints. There's that doubleness in there. I think that's to make it more durable, make it more stable. Same thing on the back and the knees, and this may be a material thing where whoever printed this used whatever material was in the printer. And the knees are double, and it stops there because of the which is a separate piece from the lower leg. There's going to be a base body here for the different characters, and then the overlays and attachments and add-ons are going to change. But there's a hinge at the ankle with a rocker, up and down hinge on a weapon-wielding hand. Ooh. The gauntlet is an overlay that also crashes into the bicep, which honestly is a big bulbous muscle. So yeah, getting that far on this size body isn't bad. The shoulder is a ball inside with this cup to cover the gap, so it rides along when you go up and down and forward and back. Oh, I'm afraid to push too hard because, again, fragile material. The shoulder pad's awesome. Just look at that sculpt. It is intimidating. The way it attaches is also interesting because it's a ball joint on this strap around the bicep. So on the final piece, this will slide around, or you'll bring it down tight around the bicep to leave it in place. Then you can also shift it forward, back, in, out to get out of the way of articulation. Standard hip setup, which I'm not going to get crazy with because this is printed. It does kick that high and go there, and ooh. I'm gonna guess the finished material is gonna be way softer, so that'll flex out. You can't get much more barbarian than that head. Look at the flowing hair and the headband with the intricate detail up there and the angry look, just But my initial reaction mostly pertained to the chest. It was just bulky as all hell. And now that I have it in hand, I can't really argue with my own point, but seeing it in the physical realm right here in front of me, it's not as distracting. That's what I'm going to say. It's not as distracting as I thought it'd be. The belt keeps gapping away from the loincloth because of the torso leaning back. I'm holding it up in the air. I'm essentially holding it like this. So the whole upper body, because of the weight and the heaviness, is wanting to go back. That's dragging the belt. If I bring the torso forward, it does close the gap and looks very nice. I don't know what the final product will be like in that aspect, if this will be attached to this or if it's made like this in order to allow some arc back and then some crunch forward. This goes along with it. I will say that the proportions and feel is very familiar, and I say this in the most loving way possible. I mean this as a compliment. I am not disparaging Brutal Realm at all, but this is almost like describing Masters of the Universe to somebody who has never seen Masters of the Universe. Let's take a barbarian setting and then throw muscles at a human form until it almost looks unnatural, and then just take it one step further. Not far enough to make it monstrous, but just far enough to make you think, good Lord, these guys eat and work out, and then sometimes find time to fight the forces of evil, or good, depending on what side you're on. I mean, even the weapons are a beautiful homage to Man of He. And I love it when pommels come off weapons, so you can just add them to the hands without really stretching. They stay nice and tight, and then you just add the pommel back, and you're done. Ready for some barbarian action. And please do not comment on that thing sagging down again. It's the material used for the prototype. I know most of y'all know that, but there's always going to be that comment of, why would I buy something that just flops around? Good thing about it, take all those aesthetics, put it in 6-inch scale, because here is the Masterverse He-Man, which is about 7-inch, and the Origins Cartoon Collection He-Man, which stands at about 6 inches tall. See, there's a similarity, but I love the realism infused into this figure, which will work perfect as a big bulky bastard in your Marvel Legends collection. The Kickstarter began just this week, so if you're interested in getting in on the ground floor, getting these funded, getting them financed, getting them through the factory, and then eventually getting finished figures in your grubby little hands, links in the description. Next up, let's take a look at the Big Bad Workshop Fresh Monkey Fiction Joe Fest exclusive Operation Monster Force Omen of Doom Forgotten King. What am I doing, a rewind? Now, I love the Big Bad Workshop Fresh Monkey Fiction Naughty or Nice collection. Just very awesome figures all the way around, but that hasn't stopped me from wanting some more traditional type action figures. Now, don't get me wrong, Santa Claus is awesome. It has joints and everything, but this is more up my alley, or it will be once Monster Force gets into full swing with the vampires and the zombies and the hunters and, oh man, just so much good stuff. This is just a first taste. This is our gateway drug of a figure, because we will be getting this figure, the Forgotten King, in the main line, all painted up with the white suit and the golds and the ornamental paints and everything. I guess since all the molds are tuned in, it was easy to do an initial run of translucent plastic figures, because there's also a Dracula in red. And before I go any further, special thanks to Big Dub for sending this to me from Joe Fest, because I wasn't even expecting it, and out of the blue, that translucent blue, ghostly blue, he was like, I'm sending you one, and I couldn't be happier, and I couldn't be more thankful, so thank you. What else is in the package? It looks like a, is that a gravestone? Oh, it's a stand. I thought it went this way. Here lies Monster Force, but it's actually like this, and that's a back wall, or a step of some kind, because there's the foot pegs. Then there is the wand. Is that part and piece? Okay, yeah. Ooh, you have to assemble. It's a mushroom peg, so stuff actually pops on. The other end's a blade. Very tight, but very secure. There's also alternate hands splayed out, 2 flat palms, 2 fists. There's also these magic effects that I absolutely love, all bubbly and... Is that how it works, like this? It works for me. That's all that matters. And then just look at the detail to the end of the staff. That is scary and very cool at the same time. I like how the hands just pop in and out right out of the package, or well, the baggie, I guess. That gives me a lot of faith in the articulation, like the elbows going up that far. There's a very nice softness to the jacket. And because of the clear plastic, you can see that the jacket is one layer, then there's the vest, and then there's a tie that's separate under that moves around. That's crazy. Peg coming out to the hips, swings up, back, out. Again, that gets out of the way so he can kick better than a lot of Spider-Man. Knee kicks up to about right there with a hinge joint at the ankle that goes super far, and then front-facing pin. Torso is covered up because of the 3 layers there, but it seems to be a ball joint at the waist, so tilt, some forward and back. And then the head is, oh, it's a ball joint. In fact, I think the whole bottom of the neck is a ball going down into the torso, so nice movement there. Then there's a hinge that goes forward and back, and a ball joint on top of that. The head shape being a helmet does kind of get in the way. Well, actually, no, it doesn't, because look how far it is above the shoulder, so there is tilt, a lot of up. I love that. Not to mention the sculpted detail that will be a lot more apparent when there's paint on it. Here, it's kind of obscured. You can see the light bouncing off this coming up, the horn things, the helmet things, the suit things, the hand things, the pant things, the boot things. Here's a couple of suited Marvel Legends MCU characters, and this will work just fine. I gotta think the soldiers and everybody else will be either this size or slightly bulkier. On top of all that, it glows in the dark, and I don't know how much that's showing up on camera. It's kind of a ghostly greenish blue glow. I'm attempting to take pictures of it because it looks better there, but we'll see. I don't know. And then a crash was heard from the other room, telling you that yes, A figure had fallen, and it had taken more with it. Yeah. Next up, we'll get into some LooseCollector releases with the Coffin Comics Legacy Series Lady Satanus and La Muerta. If you have any experience with Hell Witch or Lady Death, then you pretty much know what you're getting with Lady Satanus. Oh, before I forget, this is a custom cape on Lady Death, and probably one of my favorite LooseCollector figures, just because of the design. I love the white pale skin, but Lady Satanus is right up there with both of these. Some toy companies shy away from the female figures, but Executive Replicas and LooseCollector just dive right in. I think they've made more females than male figures. There's a swivel at the bicep, double elbows pinless, and then there's double knees pinless. Not to mention the double elbows giving full movement. And one of LooseCollector's signature moves is moving the thigh swivel down closer to the knee where the body part is rounder. You swivel and it doesn't break the silhouette. Up here where there's more definition, more muscle, we've seen it 1,000 times before. You turn it and it ledges out, or it becomes this, or it just that. Yeah, it's just so much cleaner down here. Some intricate paint and sculpt here with some of the jewelry, like the skull, the claws, this coming down on the torso. Very clean, very subtle, very nice. There's an armband around the left arm. There's a pentagram down at the bottom of the cape collar. Unfortunately, there's a shoulder pad that is glued completely down. So when you raise this up, it kind of just runs into the torso. It doesn't get past there. But then there's a trident belt buckle and a bikini bottom that's actually sculpted in. That's not just paint. Some gold trim boot tops sculpted onto the thighs with a couple of studs there. Then there's some plug-in pieces on the front of the boots, make those a little more ornate. There's high heels, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and this, and this. And because of the joint system and the counterbalances on the front and back, it's not a huge problem to get her to stand. I haven't tried it with the plastic cape yet though. We're gonna put that around the neck, plug that into the back, and do this again, and kind of push forward, and hey, can't complain about that. There's something about the face, and I'm not talking about the nice paint apps, the lips, the yellowed out eyes, a little blush to the cheeks, the evil eyebrows, the hair flowing to the side. That all looks nice, but I almost see a young Bette Midler here? Am I just imagining that? Oh, but the cape is icing on top. It kind of just fills out the whole thing. I really like that. There's even some airbrush shading in the grooves, give it a little more depth. Inside too, outside and inside. Oh. There's the flat hands, kind of more spellcasty hands, fists, and there's grips. And I am gonna swap the right hand out for a grip, which before I even get to it, look, up and down hinge on a weapon wielding hand. And then I'm gonna put a left spell casting just for the hell of it. Because she's gonna be holding this nice looking trident with this beautiful sculpt up at the top with the jagged edges and the pointies and everything. How about we go here with it, in between those two humps. Wind beneath my... But I was anticipating La Muerta way more, simply because of the skeleton outfit and the tactical gear. These boots are insane. Most of you know that I love little flourishes like silver on buckles, and there are plenty to go around here. Even have the metal steel toe on the end of the boot. Don't forget about the knee pads. Just a busy look, a pleasingly busy look, because once you get above the boots, it's essentially just spandex for the pants, the shirt, the sleeves, at least until you get to the gloves. Those have that fingerless look to them with the open back. And it's not overly sculpted, it's just a strap and some wrinkles, but it still stands out against the smoothness of the body. Not a bad thing. It's a nice contrast, especially with the paintwork going on. There's a lot to confuse your eye with the whites and the blacks, and again with the counterbalances, although this time the heels aren't near as high, so first try. I didn't pose it. I haven't tried that before. It was just like bam, boom, done. Look at that. Oh shit, I missed the buckles at the elbow because my eye was distracted by the bones, because it's all on the back too. There's another couple of straps sculpted in above and below the elbow. There's nice silver buckles and then a pad on the back. Again, double elbows coming all the way up, and then there's a dumbbell joint mid-torso. Get some hula hoop action, kick up, kick back, kick out. Thigh swivel, move down closer to the knee, but now it's double hidden because of the boot top going there. So there's a swivel there, and there's a swivel there. Kick back, kick forward, and then there's some rocker in and out on the fist, and then the hair is swept to the side, so there's not as much to get in the way of up, down, tilt, side to side. But while we're at the head, look at that paint job. Just some very nice, intricate detail. It's interesting that there's skin showing here, and it kind of stands out against the whole thing. My brain thinks, oh, that should be a full costume, but I guess Coffin Comics, the design itself, I don't know. But god dang, she can pose around. Being very tactical, she's got to come with some weapons, and oh man, she's loaded. There's one of this rifle. Then there's two of these for some dual wield. Also 2 pistols. You can holster those on the back of the belt. Along with this big knife, and I do mean big knife. Here's the rifle, and there's also a loop for that back here. I'm guessing there's a clasp somewhere. How do you get this on her? Oh! You pop her apart at the mid-torso, and then you can just slip the belt on, and then pop it back together. Easy peasy. And I like that that adds a little extra to the overall look. You know, we gotta pop the fists out because there's 2 trigger finger hands. The belt does like to hop around when you're posing it. I was gonna dual wield the pistols, but she just looks tougher with the rifles. Doesn't she? Doesn't she? Also has no problem whatsoever shouldering the rifle. Just an eye-catching figure, no matter the pose. These will also have no problem fitting in with your Marvel Legends display. And I know they don't need to fit in with Marvel Legends, but you know me. You know this channel. I like things that fit in with 1/12 scale, the things I collect, and I collect Marvel Legends, so... Sticking with LooseCollector, but moving into one of his own lines, here's the Crypt Great Wolf Garros of the South. Me looking at the wolf from the South? That's just fitting, isn't it? Alright, first off, this is one big hunk of plastic wolf. Second, there's care instructions inside, and I had to implement them. Intended for adult collectors, choking hazard. Don't put the big... In case of stuck joint, immerse part in hot water to free joint and avoid damage. Do not force movement. That's the one I had to use, but it's only because this is such a large piece of plastic. There has to be heavy detents in places in order to hold its own weight. So out of the box, some of those detents are gripped on tight. I didn't use hot water though. I used a heat gun and just moved it around until it warmed up. Then when I was able to break the joint free, I moved it back and forth a few times just to keep it loosened up, to kind of wear it in, I guess, get it used to its own movement. You still have to wrestle around with it a little bit because of the weight. It's just awkward because you're used to, or at least I am, I'm used to regular size figures. You know, you grab it, here you have to methodically go through to pose it because you start up here, you may forget what you're doing by the time you get down here. Or I do, but I can only speak for myself. Here it is next to the Marvel Legends Vulcan that I keep trotting out, and then the LooseCollector Monster Hide. But it's not meant to be standing straight up and down like this. You get some action to it, and then you bring the legs forward, and then you bend the knees, and you kick the leg back forward there, and then here, and there's some snaps to it that hold it in place because of the sheer size of the figure. There's a ball jointed tail back here that you can pose out or flip around, up and out, or wherever you want to go with it. And even awkwardly posed like this, I'm not even done. I haven't got to the upper torso and arms because of the claws on the feet and everything. Look, it's leaning forward, but it's still staying up. There's also a ball at the torso that kicks forward, and then dumbbell mid-torso. In fact, you can bring the leg up because of the rubbery crotch piece, kick his own face. Look at how much crunch there is. His knee can get into his chest. Double elbows come up to about right there. And the head's on a dumbbell joint with a floating cover piece in between us. So you can look down, but there's also a lot of up and then side to side. So even hunched down this much, it can still look forward. That is insane. And we haven't even talked about the sculpt and the paint because that is just ferocious. The fiery metallic orange and red eyes peering out of the darkness of those sockets, holy moly. And then the darker browns working to the tans, to the whites, the transitions between the twos, the dark shading in between everything. Oh man, it just works so well. Black claws stand out against the lightness of the fingers and the toes. The nose and the teeth and the gums just look wet. And I think I forgot to mention that the jaw's articulated too. The back fur is a softer overlay, and that's the same for the hair on the back of the arms. You can't hardly see where it's plugged in, where it goes from the hard plastic of the arm to the softer plastic of the fur. And then there's even some light dry brushing to the back of the leg to bring out the sculpt there too. And again, the legs are bent, the arms are bent, he's hunched over. Pretty solid standing up. I'm not gonna be afraid of this falling off the shelf. In fact, it falls back into position. Look at that. Just impressive as hell all the way around, especially when you get up to here and those eyes. Man, I cannot get over that. That looks so good. Woohoo! There's also 2 fists that I will never use, but man, those are just as beautiful. And then there's 2 hands with even more splayed out fingers and claws. I may swap those in though. These are neat, but Those others seem a little more ferocious. Let's take that and plug these in. And I didn't even heat these. The hands were on, they popped out, they popped in. Don't take the heating of joints as a bad thing. Again, excellent balancing for such a big figure. Let's do the tip test. Passes. Jumping into another big bulky bastard of a figure, here is the Xes Studio Combatants Fight for Glory Kasos the Crasher. Kasos. Oh, and save noticed here, please do soft the parts with hot water before assembly or disassembly to avoid being damaged. Again, big honking piece of plastic, big joints, big detents. Well, I spoke too soon. There's no detents. In fact, these are the smoothest knees I've messed with in a long, long time. They just glide. They just move. Same for the ankles. They just go back and forward and front-facing pin. The hips aren't hindered either, despite looking like they're covered by about, well, okay, they are covered by 3 layers of material. There's this chain on the front, and that is actual links. There's these sculpted leather parts that are super flexy, and look, painted rivets and buckles. You know I love that kind of thing. They did the same thing up here on the sculpt going around. There's more buckles and more armor bits and spikes. Look at that skull on the belt buckle. That paint job is absolutely beautiful. It looks like bone. There's another layer of sculpted ribbon or something. Those are flexi rubber too. And then there's a soft goods fur piece under that. And all that beautiful detail continues around to the back. Look at the rivets just poked in and the wash on the leather making it look aged. Despite all that, look, still kicks up, still kicks back, still kicks out. Oh my God. The mid-torso is a bit... You know you love it. Can crunch down. Butterfly joint at the shoulders doesn't move as much as it looks like, unless I'm missing something, but it comes forward, goes back, pin coming out to the shoulder, rotates around. There's a hinge that goes up to here. There's a bicep swivel. There's a hinge and swivel at the elbow that comes up to about 90. Wraps on the right hand because he holds the weapon. Left has the armor plates. This is where he's defending. Nice overlay to the forearm, and then the shoulder pad's kind of like the barbarian we looked at earlier. This is a floaty piece that's attached to the strap down at the bicep. So it does kind of like to ride down, but it's a simple matter of just boop, popping up, and it goes back up over the shoulder while still getting out of the way of movement. Like the wolf, this is the focal point. Those orange eyes just poking out, looking all mean. Just do not get in front of this guy. He will mow you down. This transition on the horns from the white to the black is absolutely beautiful and stands out against the orangey skin, I guess it is. Kind of a brownish color with airbrush details. If you don't like these extra metal bits on here, you can take those off for a cleaner look. I kind of like the extra damage that it can do. I wish he could look up a bit more. There is some down, some side to side, not bad, some rotation. Oh, and a mouth. Man, that is awesome looking. Just another big heavy hunk of plastic, and I absolutely love it. I don't know why I waited so long to open this thing. I've had it for months and months. Now I regret my decision of putting it in a pile and going, I'm gonna wait for a play day. No. I should have been breaking into here and playing with this a long time ago. Again, here's some Marvel Legends for scale. While the human type feet are okay, I've got to swap some parts because it also comes with bull lower legs, hoof feet, and that just makes too much sense. I think you swap them at the ankle. You pull this off because you're adding another joint to it. I heated up the first one and it popped right off, and I looked at it and thought, well, that's not a huge peg, so I grabbed the other one and it just popped off too. But better safe than sorry. I kind of like testing stuff out like that. If it fights you a little too much, hairdryer, hot water, heat gun, something to warm it up, and it just softens up. And is there a left and a right? Oh, okay, there's an L and there's an R. I had to get the peepers out to see those because I could not find them. Oops, as I was pulling and swapping and turning and twisting, one of the cuffs on the horns fell off. I'm sure glad I picked gray rug for this room. Carpet monster! First place I looked over where I was heat gunning. You do want to push the wraps that were at the human ankles up as far as possible so you can get the most kick out of the leg. I love this look a lot more. It's more animalistic, but the posing is more precarious. There's less surface area to the hooves than there was the feet. There is some movement to the hooves back and forth and then rocker that's covered nicely with this first sculpt, but it is slightly loose, so it likes to go as forward as possible. How about this? We pull those forward, and then we can stand up a little straighter, makes them taller, still gives them the dog leg, and yeah, okay, there we go. Also, these are rubbery, so if you push them down as far as they'll go, they'll lock onto the horn and won't want to fall off as easy. One last thing, he comes with a battle axe, and it's got all the same nice details and paint job. Pulling the hand off, I realized that's a swivel hinge swivel, so you can turn it side to side or up and down, and then swap an open hand into the left. Just another tough looking piece of plastic. Another big thanks to Big Dub for including the Ramen Toy Aces of Aviation Wolfpack in with my care package. I guess he got together with Ace of Ramen Toy at Joe Fest, and when Ace found out that Dub was sending me something, he asked if he could include this, because he's been saying he's going to send me one of these. And the package has some nice graphics all over it, along with a leather type texture. It makes it feel very luxury, very quality, but we're worried about that right there. And dang, getting it open, there's a lot more hidden behind the graphics on the package, along with a beret and... oh, an adapter. I know what that's for. I'll have to dig in my G.I. Joe box here in a minute. And here's what it looks like stock right out of the package. Just a dude in some flight gear. Then you look closer and realize how intricate all this is. First, there's the paint and the sculpt to this overlay. Look how many different colors of green and gray there are. And the silvers of buckles. I cannot tell you how much I love that kind of thing. Again. And then you get down to the leggings or the pants or whatever. Buckle, 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 buckle. Not as intricate on the back, but you have different shades of green. There's the grays again coming down to these rubber straps that are part of the pants sculpt. It is open here for leg articulation, but you can see this coming across. It's all attached and it starts to stretch there a bit too much. And then it's open on the front and the back of the knee, but it only goes to about right there before there's a lot of tension on that rubber material, that overlay. The articulation at the waist isn't as hindered though, because these are two different pieces. There's the upper part and a lower part, so you can get some crunch and back and side to side and some twist. And speaking about smooth joints again, that elbow is buttery, along with rotation around, then a hinge out, there's a bicep swivel, and then a swivel hinge swivel at the wrist. Very nice neck too. There's a joint down in the shirt where the neck attaches to the body, and then there's a dumbbell at the top. So there's them up, there's them down, then lots and lots of tilt left and right. There's a pair of sunglasses that you can put on for when he's on the runway. Just too much light shining, he's too bright. There's also a nice helmet with a Wolfpack logo here and some red stripes up on top. It includes some decals to decorate it up however you want. Ace suggests to take it through the front of the helmet and then down onto the head. And it is kind of loosey-goosey on there because it's the same mold for all three pilots with different hairs, so it's kind of not made for this exact head. And run this hose down the front right there, and the best way I found to do this is to plug one halfway in and then start the other one and then push both on. That helps hold the helmet in place because there's also these goggles that come down with this lever on top to complete the look. That is badass. Got plenty of hands, both gloved and ungloved, and then this bag of some kind with a handle on top. It's hard plastic. It doesn't really do anything. It's just there. I may be missing something. I don't know a lot about military gear, but we are gonna try to take off this top gear. I'm not sure if it's meant to do it, but I did notice, well, the head comes off. This does unclasp right there. I'm wondering if the figure pops apart in the middle some... Yes, okay, right at the torso. So you can take that, slide that off. I have already done this. Pulled on the feet, the whole ankle assembly comes out. Oh, well, hell, those are separate too. That is insane. Now, just pull both sides and you have legs. Plug that back together. Plug the feet back in. And then you have guy in jumpsuit, which was meant to be because they painted these zippers here. Not this one, but these three. With the overlay, the torso doesn't really move here. It's mostly here. The knees bend this far. There's even a drop down hip. And I missed that the watch is a separate piece too. But remember that there's also a beret accessory. So if you want to dress him out even more, there's that. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Here is the G.I. Joe Classified Series Falcon, and yep, that's the same beret. So I'm going to take this off. Well, that, okay, that is way smaller. But there's also an adapter piece in with the decals, and it's clever. Look, it's remove before flight. That gives you a much more realistic look, or a more human look, and not like a bad Zartan mask. The Falcon head hole is way too small to put on here. I was gonna say that you could take that off, and it doesn't matter if you put the helmet on and drop the visor, because you'll never see the face. You just need a head under there, but that doesn't seem to work. And even the adapters have different socket sizes, plus the skin tones don't match. On this, it's pretty much covered by the neckerchief. Hopefully it's easy enough to slip these right back on. Get that cake in there. It is a little easier to arc back as far as possible. Try to get his ass flat to get up in there. This is a lot easier. You just there and then snap this back into place. Oh shit, forgot to put these leg straps back. And I think that's how I'm gonna display it, because I don't have any figure that looks like this. I may need some small Razorback decals to go on the helmet though. Finally, let's finish it off with the Unparalleled Universe Odious, because why wouldn't I? This is just unmistakably Wade, and right there, there's his logo. There better be a beard hair in here. How do you open this box? Oh, okay, there's the tape right there. We got a flap. Oh, look at that. That's a very nice presentation. That's extra clothing and the back of the box. Oh, dinosaur hands, baby. I expect royalties from that, you know. I helped with that. Got a big metal skull on a stick. Some weight to it. And the figure right out of the package is very, very nice. The clothes lay really natural. Denim's really hard to do at this scale, and even then, the threads look pretty good. The bottom edges look torn and ripped because he's barefoot. He's got sharp toenails. He's animalistic. He's running around. Have the plaid shirt underneath with the hood coming up and out, and then the overcoat with a wired front. It's a very light wire. You don't even notice it until you start posing. Oh, there's wire at the bottom too. Again, it's not really noticeable. You put it into position and it stays there and you think, wait, did that just... Oh, no, there's a wire there. Have a strap around the cuff on the jacket. The collar, I'm guessing, is gonna have some wire too, so you can pop that up if you want. Will the hood go up and over this big old noggin? Yep. If you put the edges of the hood underneath the jacket, it will stay down in front of the eyes. Now it looks like it's popped way up, but that's the actual head. It's touching right here. But why would you do that? Because look at the paintwork on here. It's not as good as Wade's hand-painted casts, but for factory work on a Kickstarter, this is downright amazing. There's some shading around the whited out eyes and then down in the grooves of the forehead. Some pink to the lips, the teeth bright white and not too wet. That's important. You can't have wet teeth on an Odious figure. Same for the hands, the hair painted on the back, that skin tone, and then the fingernails. And guess what? The feet match too. Even the ties from the hood are scale looking. Notice that there's some Velcro. Let's see if we can get it to a point where it's kind of hidden by the shirt. Yeah. But let's also see what's underneath. Whoa! I knew that was going to be under there, but it's the dry brushing that caught me off guard. The lighter brown on top to bring out that sculpted detail. There's also Velcro at the jeans. I'm guessing got to pop the hands off in order to get the jacket off. Looking at the other hands, the pegs are on the wrist and they come out of the arm. So this should, yeah, just like that. Slip the jacket off. Oh, and it's sleeveless. Look at that. That's awesome. I probably should have showed it, but the jacket is thin enough to not get in the way of the double elbows from bending up to about right there. The pants are the same way. You can bend the double knee up to here. I think I may like this look better with the sleeveless, but I think that's why this is included, because there's sleeves on this one. Wade wouldn't want Odious running around sleeveless. Okay, there's fur sculpt all over, and there is, oh, a dumbbell joint at the shoulder with a cover piece down in there. So there's forward and back, up and down. Swivel at the bicep. Joint at the bottom of the neck with a dumbbell up top. Look at all that head movement. Dumbbell mid-torso with a huge amount of movement, and a ball down at the waist. So together, crunchy, crunchy. Ankles way forward, way back, some rocker, and then a toe joint that goes up. I already showed the screaming head, that's pretty cool, but it's probably my least favorite, only because of how good the rest of them are too. There's this kind of bewildered look, this, what the hell did you just say look? Is the chat really talking about that? And then the who? Surprised head. I think I just went to the Kickstarter and backed it without looking at a lot of the fine detail. I don't remember there being this much expression between the different heads. Now that I look closer, that one may be holding back a laugh or something. I can't decide which one I want to use. Wade did warn me to go ahead and heat up the head before popping it off. And again, stuff coming out of the factory, where you try to get all that, but because of tolerances, everything, sometimes it comes out a little tight. So you got to heat it up, pop it off, heat up the head, pop on the other one. And after you do it a couple times, from what I hear, it should be good to go to do it just whenever without having to heat it up again. I think I'm also going to use the long sleeve hoodie. It's kind of ripped up, maybe from a Wendigo attack or something. The back's shredded too. That's neat. Now I have to decide on hands. There's clawed, there's splayed out, there's big grip, there's larger grip, almost kind of tensed up. There's fists, there's tighter grips, and then pointing fingers. Definitely want a grip on the right hand because I want them to hold the weapon. So that's going in there. And then maybe pointer for left hand. Keep your teeth dry, motherfucker. Okay, that definitely works. It's got its own style that kind of skirts the line between realistic and cartoony, and nothing wrong with that because just... I can't help it, I love it. So at the end of the day, I got to play, and you know what that means. That's a good damn day. Because there was so much plastic goodness. Oh man, again, it is just so fun to see what other people can come up with their own imaginations or their own limited resources. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean they're doing it with what they got. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah, my main collection is Marvel Legends and Star Wars because of the nostalgia factor that's behind those over the past 40 some odd years. But I still love stuff like all this. I don't know anything about Coffin comics or military flight guys or these barbarians. There's a cool-ass werewolf and a minotaur, and then monster forces just on the verge of hitting with all kinds of stuff. The bottom line is fun. I don't feel like I need to say anything else. If you're interested in any of these, the links are in the description. Go check them out. Go look at the pretty pictures. See if they're within your budget. If they're within the price range that you want to pay, get you some fun plastic. Or in the case of Brutal Realms, the Kickstarter is kicking right now. Go help it start.